Tzari Olecho Achinu. Not just Achinu, but Rabbeinu. Our Rebbe, I learned so much from him. He was a Rebbe, like the Rosh Hashiva said, to over 1,000 Talmidim who went through his shir, but he was a Rebbe to 1,000 more who learned from him, who learned from his mussar, from his hashkafa, from his hadrocha. There are Talmidim who are Talmidim because of the shmuz, and there are Talmidim who are still Talmidim. Talmidim, a Talmud who calls him every week, over 50 years. Talmidim who themselves are Rebbeim, fathers, grandfathers, and they still call him for Eitzah, to Miyayitz. But not just Rabbeinu, Tzali, Avinu, father to his children, grandfather to the Einiklach, Tsar Lonu, Alecha, R Calman. The Gemara says at the end of Masechta Sota, Mishameis Rebbe, Butler, Anova, Chesed. So Yosef says to the Tana, Sisti Anova, the Ika Anor. Rav Nachman says, Sisti Chesed, the Ika Anor. What are they saying? They're saying Anivas didn't end and Chesed didn't end. But the Anivas of Rebbe, the Chesed of Rebbe, that's finished, that's gone. Mishameis R Calman is Butler Hashpah. There'll be Mashpiyim, great Mashpiyim, Mechanchim. But the Hashpah of R Calman, that's not going to be. That Hashpah doesn't exist. The Hashpah of Harry's Mashpiyah on Talmidim for all these years. The Rosh Hashiva Zatzal, Rav Uderman said at a Simcha one time, the Calman is the Gresta Mashpiyah in Yeshiva. And he said Yeshiva, he didn't just mean Mechina, the Gresta Mashpiyah in Yeshiva. He was a Mashpiyah, he was the Metzias of Hashpah. Shefa, he overflowed, he had so much in him and it just flowed out. He couldn't hold back. He had so much to say, so many ideas. He would speak before Yom Tov to his shir. He would say a shir to them an hour on the sugya of Yom Tov. I'd give them a break in another hour, and then he'd come to me afterwards and say, I had so much more to say. And if we would have let him, he would have gone on and on. He had so much to give over. He was mashpia in three different ways. He was mashpia to the rabbim, he was mashpia to yechidim, and he was mashpia as a rebbe. He said a shmuz at the end of the year. The week before the end of the year, it was called the Chazor Shmuz. And he literally electrified the Olam. That's how Chazor week would start. And it was a marvel for all those who witnessed it. The Mechina last week, the Olam was learning, like it was the beginning of his man. A Rosh Hashiva came from Eretz Yisrael. And I told him tomorrow's the end of this man. He couldn't believe it. Where did that come from? That shmuz turned everybody on. They became mamish. They learned after hearing the shmuz. They sat down and they chazed day after day till the last day of this man mamish. But it was more than that. It wasn't just that shmuz. He taught Maseches Brachos. And he was the founder, not the founder, but the one who continued, who brought to life the whole Bekias program. Maseches Brachos, it was him, he was the Masechta. And he brought the whole program alive. He created that whole hashpah, all the years the Brachim learned in Chazad, it's in his chus. His enthusiasm his excitement for the Masechta. Can you imagine? The 50th, 51st year, he learned the Masechta with the same enthusiasm and excitement the first time. The same Masechta. And that was infectious, and the Talmidim got turned on because of that. And they're still chazring, Maseches Brachas. Many years later, there's so many Talmidim who call him and say, I'm still chazring Brachas. His Erev Rosh Hashanah Shmuz. It transformed Rosh Hashanah from a Yom Tov with Tekiah Shofar into a Yom Hadin. But a Yom Hadin that was positive. He brought out to the Talmidim the milas of Rosh Hashanah. It wasn't depressing. It was an aliyah. And the Talmidim acted differently in Rosh Hashanah because of that shmuz. Every week, almost every week, he said a shmuz. He didn't just get up and say a shmuz. He put hours of preparation. He told me I prepared this, I did that. He had to glean from his volumes of shmuz to cut it down to the zman of saying a shmuz. He had so much to say. But he worked on how to give the shmuz. Should I say this thing first or that thing first? How can I say it the best way that the Baruch Hu will be makabel it? Should I say this story or that story? Should I say it now or should I say it later? He worked on the shmuz every week. He was a shpia on Yechidim. He worked with so many Bachrim individually. And he learned what they needed, each one. This one he would learn Mesiras Yesharim. And that one from the Ali Shur. Another Talmud from Rabbatis Yos for him. Another Talmud from a Freelander. He understood what each Bachar needed. He was brilliant at sizing up Bachrim. He could touch up a Bachar. He knew what the Machanech Nara Pidaki, he knew. So many times he would see a 9th grade Bachar, just watching him in the base measures, he would say to me, he should be in my Shia next year because I can work with him. He saw potential that perhaps others didn't see. And he was invariably right. And he was a Rebbe. He was a Rebbe par excellence. He was an unbelievable Rebbe. The Shir was prepared. He would write out the whole Shir. He would never read from that Shir, but he would write it out to get it straight in his mind and deliver the Shir. And he would deliver the Shir with clarity and expression. It was never a monotone. It went from a silent, almost a whisper, to a screech, to a turn the arm on, and all the different tones in between. And so many Bachar wanted to go to his Shir. But it wasn't just natural talent. He worked and worked on himself. He read every sefer there was to read about Hashkafa and Musa. One time a new sefer, I just thought I discovered a new sefer. I asked him, Kálman, did you see this sefer? He said, I bought it 3 weeks ago. And he read the whole thing. And he knew the whole thing. He started teaching first in 1969 as a Bachar. It was an indication of who he was. A Bachar, could you imagine? A Bachar is giving the Shir. And then he stopped, and he started again in 1972. And he spent that summer, besides learning and reading all the Hashkafa on Chinuch, he wanted to understand the mindset of how children, how young adults, young adolescents work. And he read all the books and gleaned from them what was Negeya to him, Negeya to Hashpah. He read Chaim Gano and John Holt and P.E.T. and all of them, so he could gather to understand the psychology of a child. He trained himself. He mamash trained himself to be the best mashpia possible. And he was. The greatest mashpia in Yeshir. Bechina will not be the same with that. Besides that, I lost my best friend. So, the Keles Yitzchak explains, when two people separate, Kosh Aleihem Pridosom, it's hard. But he says, depending on the ava between them, the separation is more difficult. The closer they are, the separation is so much harder. That their friendship is such that they share together thoughts and inmost feelings and ideas and plans, Torah, Hashkafa, and the Preda is so much more difficult. With Calman, we discussed everything together. We exchanged ideas. We exchanged books, Sforim. We shared the same values. We talked about everything together, from the mundane to whether it's better to buy two cheap suits or one good suit. We talked about whether what car, second hand, should you lease, should you buy. We talked everything together. We talked about fruit, where you get the best melon, how to tell if something is ripe. Those were the mundane things. And we talked about the lofty things, what to say in a shmooze, what not to say, how to help individual Bachrim to recognize their milas and help them overcome their shortcomings. We divided the shiurim together year after year after year. He sat down, and his insight into the Bachrim, even the ones who weren't in his shir, is what helped us make up the shiurim, as Rebbe mentioned. And even now, even this last summer, when I visited you in hospital, I asked your advice, and certain inyanim were divided in Yeshurim, and you had the eitzah, the seichel, the understanding to know and to give the right advice. Tzarli Olecho, Achi Kalman. But Na'amta, you're so sweet, so kind, always encouraging me, never ever critical, even though sometimes you had good cause to be. Never said an unkind word to me. And you would get myriads of phone calls Erev Yom Tov. Every Erev Yom Tov, the phone would not stop ringing. And we would talk about it on Shabbos, on Yom Tov. And you never told me the name of the Bachrim who called you, because you didn't want me to feel bad that perhaps why he called you and didn't call me. Only after I said a name would he discuss it. Na'amto li ma'oid was so sweet to me. You always cared about my feelings. You always said nice things to me about my sons who were in your share, became your Talmidim. When I was sitting Shiva, you didn't just come to Menachem Oval, you came every day to Menachem me. When you suffered so much these last few months, you never ever complained. You never pitied yourself. You were always upbeat. You were always saying, there'll be a breakthrough. It's good. You talked about everything. You never engrossed yourself in self-pity. You were mamash, amta dimiyait. Kasha alai lidaschem. It's hard to separate from you, Calman. Your Rebbetzin and the Children were so supportive. It was so difficult for your wife to be with you, and she didn't leave your side. Your children didn't leave your side. They gave you all the chizik, as much chizik as they could give you. Never complained about your matzav. Kosher alai, pridaschem, Calman, leich v'shog, leich v'shog.
Representing the Talmidim of Daniel Pransky.